Everyone, it's Mike Wise. How you doing? I hope you're doing well. Welcome to the Boston Blockchain Association first virtual meetup. We started planning this event when our Boston Blockchain Week event was canceled because of coronavirus. And we thought, we cannot wait until the end of April to get everybody together. Let's do something. And John Hargrave, one of our board members, saw a CoinDesk article that mentioned several people in the blockchain space that were working on coronavirus. So we decided to do a virtual meetup that was focused on coronavirus and blockchain. So here we are. Just a little bit about the Boston Blockchain Association. It's a member-supported organization. We've got three missions. One is to establish Boston as a blockchain hub in the world. Two is to advance blockchain technology. And three is to connect and support entrepreneurs and other blockchain professionals with engaging content. So during the event, I'm just going to give you a couple of logistics. You can see the chat on the left side, the right side, sorry. There's also a question panel at the very bottom. There's already one question in there, I see. And I would just ask that you would start your questions with the speaker's name. So, I got a question for David Schreier. It is blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. So thanks again for joining. Really appreciate it. We'll go with our first speaker. I'd like to introduce David Schreier. He is a Oxford and MIT futurist and author. David Schreier, welcome to the Boston Blockchain Association virtual meetup. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to come listen to us chat. So I, as Mike mentioned, I have written a book called Basic Blockchain, among a few others, including Trusted Data, which is kind of about how we can use distributed ledger and artificial intelligence to better manage personal data and protect data privacy. And I also teach the Oxford Blockchain Strategy Program online as well. And so one of the things that I've seen crop up in the COVID crisis is some significant issues around personal data privacy that DLT can help address. So just before we think about the crisis, DLT in general can help us with things like tracking who's looked at our personal data. Most of us don't know who has actually seen our personal data, but now we can have an immutable audit trail of kind of who's looked at our personal data. So that's one thing that DLT can do. And there's some other interesting things that we talk about in Trusted Data, which is DLT can be part of a solution to better share our information in a secure fashion without revealing the underlying data. So it's some really interesting technology. All that was things we were talking about before the crisis. Something that I've been tracking now is that we are in that break glass in case of emergency crisis that everyone's been worried about for years, where personal data, health data is being spread around and shared widely to try and resolve public safety issues. And unfortunately, in the rush to kind of address the public safety issues, we're leaving behind deliberately, in some cases, a lot of the personal data protections that we had put in place painstakingly over the years. So, for example, in the United States, HIPAA has been partially suspended. These critical protections around our personal health data have been suspended in order to help mobilize kind of a public response to the COVID-19 crisis. And so right now we have no idea who is looking at our personal data. And so DLT, distributed ledger, blockchain can help us address this issue while still being responsive to the broader issue of we need to be able to sort of mix and share lots of different kinds of data to effectuate a meaningful response to the virus crisis. So my takeaway for you is, in addressing this critical time in history, let's not lose sight of personal data privacy, and let's address how DLT can help protect personal privacy.
Well, great. So thank you, David. Really appreciate the reminder about protecting personal privacy. You're right. We have been very focused on HIPAA and in other parts of the world, GDPR, and of course the new California rules. So yeah, that's really good. I would imagine that's going to spawn quite a few comments and questions. How does DLT really address and help protect personal privacy while at the same time giving access to information that people really need? I think that's what you're saying, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Well, thanks, David. All right. Stand by and we'll come back to you with the questions. Again, when you're submitting questions, please put question for David Schreier, blah blah blah. So next up is Jenny Balliette. Jenny was also featured in the CoinDesk article, and she's the Director of Presentations for Athena and a trade and marketing consultant. Jenny, welcome to the vidcast. Thank you so much for sharing. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm going to be sharing my screen here. All right, so you should be able to see my screen. Is that correct?
Yep.
Perfect. So I created a little Medium article so I can just share this out with everyone too. Kind of talks about what I'm going to talk about. So just like Mike said, I have been an educator for several years. I'm blown away by what Mr. Schreier had just said. Sorry, I've just lost a little bit of my train of thought because data privacy is something that's so important in ed tech. So as an educator, now I'm in fintech, blockchain, crypto, digital assets, whatever you like to call it. I noticed that there were a lot of things that could weave both of my past and my present careers together, and that is education. And so because there's so many students that are displaced during this time, what I wanted to do was I wanted to use, I opened up my coaching. So I teach, I coach academics, which is a little bit different than tutoring. Actually, it's a lot different. It optimizes people's learning, but there's a great opportunity here. And that opportunity is that not only are students really interested in data privacy, you've got maybe some STEAM or some STEM children that are really excited about data and things, but they don't really get some of the content maybe being taught. And then you've got these other children that are really into the finance aspect of Bitcoin or different cryptos, right? But they don't really fit that mold either. And so what you can do with that, which is what I seek to do, is that you take whatever they're into and you leverage that, and you can teach any academic skill you need to, as if you have interest. It's engagement. It's I call it education reform, simply speaking. But all of the research will explain that. So because these parents have been thrust into a role of teacher when they don't know about, they know to education and they know their children. They actually know their children better than many teachers do, right? But because they don't know maybe some of the ins and outs of why you would do something or how to motivate a student, you're going to get a lot of gridlock. It's going to be, in the beginning, maybe it's great, but then as the days go on, it's like, oh, and you're just getting a lot of pushback. And that pushback can come from a lot of different reasons. And so what I do is I seek to educate these parents on those reasons and then give them opportunities to do a deep dive into research. And I used to do this with my daughter all the time, where she would be very upset about something on animal welfare. And then I would, on Instagram, and I'd be like, let's fact check that. Let's go to the Code of Federal Regulations, right? So I give parents these very simple tools. So let's see, this one, it talks about, this is just the opening, and it kind of talks about how I color code things. And then if you go to the other ones, some of the other lessons, it's all about optimizing, learning your child's strengths, processing power, processing modality, so how they input information and how that can help be more effective, or you could have more fun with this. But what it really, I would call it, is that you can use this as assimilation into blockchain, crypto, emerging technologies, and it's a half-life. And I call it the radioactive approach, because we don't need people to go out and put their life savings into Bitcoin or go all into blockchain, even though, yeah, it's amazing and it's going to revolutionize every industry. But what you're doing is you're just pulling them in just a little bit, right? So I call it a half-life, because all we need is a little bit and then a little bit more. And so what I like to do is I like to go on the periphery, not necessarily in the community, which I love my community, but there's just a lot of, it's almost like an echo chamber, right? We've got to pull these other people in. And what Mr. Schreier was saying was amazing, because with HIPAA, there's ed tech. I mean, in ed tech, you're talking about COPA, Mike. There are so many things. If you look at Zoom, and I'm not trying to be rude about Zoom, but they just got a lawsuit filed against them. And it's because of the way that they're tracking the camera, right? Well, there are different laws for children. So as we've put all of these things online, we have to make sure that they work. And so things like that are going to pull other students in and other parents in. And anytime a student is learning anything, a parent is likely going to be involved, because the student gets excited and they want to teach their parent. And that is the magic of education. When you have intrinsic motivation and you've got a student, your child, whoever, who is saying, hey, I really want to teach you this, that is the power of research-based education. As far as what we're doing with high stakes testing, something I do not agree with, but there's a whole nother story of that. And it's called the intention for attention, and it's also called the expectation of learning. So I give people a little bit of theory, I give them a little funny story, and then I give them a lot of resources. So that is what I really hope to accomplish as far as COVID-19 goes. And I think these skills can help long-term.
Awesome. So how can people get a hold of you, Jenny?
Well, they can follow me on Twitter and DM me, and I will link this article here that I just wrote, and I was sharing my screen, and I think I am still sharing my screen. I apologize. Okay, there we go. Yep. And I will add that on there. So if you could just follow Lula Educate on Twitter and Medium, you'll see all of my things.
Great. Well, one of the things that I really like is your comment about learning children's educational strengths and how they learn. So that should prove to be a really useful resource for parents. And oh, by the way, we'll bring them into the blockchain and crypto space as well. So good job, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for coming. Okay, so I saw a little chat question about this being recorded, and yes, indeed, this will be recorded. So at the end of this session, actually, this web page will revert to a recording of the session. So it's really cool technology. So next up, we have Danny Yang, who is a blockchain startup founder and advisor. And Danny, thank you so much for coming. Welcome to the vidcast. Thank you for sharing.
Great, thanks for inviting me, Mike. So I've been working on this COVID project called coronavirusapi.com. So I'll just share the screen, but you can also just go to the website and look at it yourself. So here we go.
What's the website again?
coronavirusapi.com.
All right.
And yeah, so the idea behind this project is, so I'm a data guy, and it's about basically, collecting data and, having trusted data or authentic data. Something David also said in the beginning. But this is not about, data privacy. This is about actually, data transparency of the government in particular. So there are actually a bunch of coronavirus data sites out there tracking cases and death and so on. But the point of this one, or the differentiator, is that this is collecting official data. So from the government websites, in particular in the U.S., right, we have 50 states and some other districts like Washington, D.C. And each district or state basically produces their official count, and then they might send to CDC, and you can get some national count from the CDC. But really, the states have a lot of power, and they basically produce and kind of stamp the numbers. So this site pulls all the numbers from the states, from the their health department. So these are their published official numbers as they publish them each day or multiple times a day in some of the sites. And so I gathered them all here on this website, and you can, see the how much testing was done, how many positives, how many people died, and also my focus on testing, because testing is going to be really important for us to get over this pandemic, right? For us to be get out of lockdown, we have to be able to continuously test, because even after end of April or end of May, whenever we can leave our house, most of the 90+% of the U.S. population is not immune to it, right? We don't have herd immunity. We only have basically we're all gonna be susceptible to the disease if it is spreading again. So we need very good testing, and with testing, we also need to make sure the numbers are reported quickly and properly. So that's the point of this project, is to be able to pull the numbers in one place and people can take action on it. Right now, this is only for the states. But eventually, I'd like to do it for all the counties, and then cities and towns also, where whoever's reporting the numbers, and basically you can have it in one place. Yeah, so you can go to the site and play around with it. There are a few charts down here that kind of I find useful. Oh, I guess one would be looking at kind of the maybe like this column tells you like the percentage of tests that were positive, and a few of the states are really high. New Jersey, New York, these are really high. Basically, there's so much, and they're testing quite a bit actually. It signals that so many people are positive or are infected that everyone they test, half of the people, 40% of people are infected. Well, if you look at the opposite end of the spectrum, let's see, Washington State, they're also testing quite a bit. Where is that? Here, Washington. So Washington, they're actually testing quite a bit. Yeah, like 11,000 per million people. But the rate's pretty low. So that's a good example of a state that's doing well. And you can actually see that in if you look at cases over time between states. Like I just highlighted Washington. Okay, I highlighted New York and New Jersey. If you look at those two, the growth is actually similar and very fast. What did I not see? Okay, so yeah, this is New York, that's New Jersey. If you then look at Washington, you see they started out pretty high, right, in number of cases, but they didn't grow nearly as fast. I mean, this is on log scale, so anything upwards on this is actually quite fast acceleration in cases. Let's see, another interesting one would be perhaps Boston, right? You guys are in Massachusetts. If you look at Massachusetts, and let me deselect some of these. Okay, so Massachusetts is the purple one. I'm comparing against. Let's see, I don't want to compare against Washington. Let me click on. So here's Michigan, and here's Massachusetts. You see that actually Massachusetts was high, and then it didn't grow as much. Well, like Michigan grew a lot, but now they're both growing pretty quickly again. So Massachusetts was doing well apparently, 2 weeks ago, but it's growing again in cases. I mean, part of that might be testing also. So there's many factors involved. So everything is kind of biased, and each state the comparison might not be fair. But yeah, people can look at this and kind of look at how your state is doing. All right.
Great. Well, that's really good information. I just got to know, just one quick question. Well, you know what? I'm going to come back to that question. I'm not gonna steal the thunder. I'm sure somebody else is going to have the exact same question that I had. So remember, in the question panel, ask your question and put, Danny Yang. I saw somebody already did that. And
yeah, about the blockchain part. Yeah, that's kind of data transparency aspect, which is to basically stamp that, on this date, Boston or Massachusetts or California said we have, 52 deaths or whatever it is, just for a data transparency aspect. People can't say later on, these numbers will be adjusted and changed later, but they can't at least hide it and say, well, we didn't have this many cases then.
Okay, cool. So stand by, Danny. I'm sure there's going to be some questions during the Q&A.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Okay, so next up, all the way from Czech Republic, We have Yuri Kram, who's a blockchain and cloud solutions architect. And you and I met at the, what was it, the Corticon in London, and developed an affinity for each other. And Yuri was actually a student of David Schreier at MIT.
Yeah, MIT, yes.
Well, welcome, Yuri. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. So, yeah, I'm currently in the Czech Republic, but because of the quarantine, I'm normally based in London. Anyway, should I share my screen?
Yep, go ahead.
Awesome. Yep. Let's do this. So, tell me if you can see my screen. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So, hi, everyone. This is my contribution to the global COVID-19 hackathon that happened basically last week. And, you know, I've contributed to this project called Smart Quarantine. It's been very fast concept. It's been actually adapted to one of the concepts I did in the past for retail. And it looks like this. So basically, when you think about the large cities, they are really dangerous for virus spreading. And social distancing, like many of you actually already experienced, is quite difficult. And therefore, we really need to build cities that are much safer for people and where we can move much more freely. So how are we going to fix this? You know, the city is going to be behaving almost like a real-time social graph. And the citizens going to be behaved almost like a nodes feeding the inferences to the machine learning models. And locations can be also parts of the blockchain network. And how we're going to achieve this is by the combination of the city government and telecommunication service provider. So this is the picture that actually shows these two players. So you have on one side, you have a city government, and then you have a telecommunication service provider. I'm going to start from the top and going down. So basically, from the point of view of city, the city looks like a social graph. So you can see the interaction in the city and all this. And this means that you can do the predictions, what's going to be the behavior of each part in the city. And because everything is connected, we got an inference to those machine learning models. So I got an inference from the identities of the people that are actually moving. And the very important part is the edge locations. When I say edge locations, think about places like hospitals, you know, train stations, large shopping malls, and all that. And the reason for this is obviously 5G, because, you know, this cuts the latency. And this enables totally different model for cities, because I can build like API services for the city and do the real-time alerting, for example, for the people, which I'm going to show you, not to move to the certain areas. Now, let's go to the communication service provider. I'm going to show you the next slide, which is actually talking about what is in the telecommunication service side around blockchain. So we have the centralized kind of like a ledger, which sits in a telco provider. When I say telco, talk about someone like Verizon, AT&T, Telefonica, whoever, right? And the way how we actually do this is that we are not working with the, let's say, from the API perspective, from the data of the like a real people on the social graph, but we create the identity hash of these people. So it's basically the consensus between four things. You have a device, and you have a bank identity, basically KYC, and the government identity, like your ID and all that kind of stuff. And then the health API, therefore you can get the status like, are you COVID positive, COVID negative, and all that. And therefore, from the point of view of what David was talking about, the protection of the data, this thing is designed specifically for Europe, for GDPR compliance and all that, because basically in our ledger, we do not store the data about people, but we store the resulting hash. So you are either COVID negative or COVID positive. Okay, so this is how we actually protecting the data. Now, let me show you what it really means from the analytical perspective. So this is the city. It could be, for example, Madrid or London or something. And it's split in the various areas in the city. And here you can see those triangles, and they represent those edge locations. As I said, it could be museum, bus station, shopping malls, and whatever have you. And then you have the identities. And identities can be even blue dot, which is basically someone who is a COVID negative, and the red dots, which are basically COVID positive patients. Now you see there's some arrows around that. And this is this prediction models which we run because of this kind of like inference, which is basically coming because everyone who has the mobile device connected to this network, we basically optimize all those machine learning models. And so what you can see here, for example, we have a people in area city 8, and they can move to the city area 9 or 14. And we don't want them to move to the area 14 because there's a high risk of contagion. So why I'm doing it? Because I'm really concerned about the situation. This is something which was posted by the CEO of Telefonica in Madrid. And this is basically the symbol of what is happening in Madrid. So this is this bear is a symbol of Madrid, and he's hugging the nurse. And think about it, it's almost like a similar symbol, like the Statue of Liberty would step down from a pedestal and hugging the nurse. So this is how bad it is in Europe, and therefore I decided to donate this project for absolutely free to any city in the world with the telecommunication, basically, because this is the combination of the telco and the government. And I'm obviously using the MIT license for this because I really want to save as many lives as possible. That's it, Mike.
Great. So Yuri, awesome. Thank you so much for doing that and for sharing it. And so what you're really looking for is introductions to people that can use this. So,
yeah.
So spreading the word, right? That's what we're trying to do.
Saving lives, as many lives as we can. Because there's 1 million people, with the COVID right now, and we need to save as many lives as we can.
Right. Exactly. Great. Thank you so much. What time is it in Czech Republic right now?
Oh, it's actually 1 a.m.
Thank you, Yuri. I'd never know it. So, all right. So
okay.
Up next, we have Steve Supidix. So Steve is with Clove Crypto, and he's in charge of growth. So Steve, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate it. Welcome to the vidcast.
Great. Thanks for having me. And great to follow Yuri. In the exact same vein, we are hoping at Clove to help contribute to mitigating the COVID-19 issue. We all know that there's a lot of problems occurring as a result of COVID-19, and it's not ending anytime soon. We at Clove believe that blockchain technology has a pivotal role to play in that. And if blockchain isn't going to enter the world sphere, it's not ever going to be. So we are committed to mitigating this crisis with technology and with leadership. Some of the problems presented by COVID-19 are on your screen currently. The barriers you see are almost all barriers that we've always had within the blockchain world, but one added is time. We have a very limited amount of time to contribute to the solutions and help solve problems such as saving lives, getting equipment out, etc. So what are we doing? We are proposing an initiative to accelerate any and all projects related to blockchain and solving problems related to coronavirus. On your screen, you'll see a number of potential projects that we would help to implement. We've looked into several of these and are excited kind of about all of them. And we're hoping that, BBA and the folks who have joined us today have an interest in helping as well. Some of the opportunities include charity work, helping restaurants survive this time of peril, adding touchless transactions and IoT to the world stage in a way that's never really existed before, for reasons that have never really existed before. Bringing communities together with microeconomies, and helping with identity management however we can. What we're here to contribute to either existing projects or projects that flower as a result of this are our digital wallets. So the wallets as they stand, as well as wallets that are changed in ways that accomplish the problems that we're solving. Validating ideas, whether it be ideas that we've brought forth or somebody else has brought forth. Our technology advisement in the realm of blockchain, and then leadership when it comes to these projects as well. So we're not like just saying we want to help out a little bit and walk away. We want to be engaged from the start to the end to help get these things going. And I'm betting there's a number of folks on this call who are interested in helping and don't know how. So hopefully we'll see some responses from you on this wonderful little form that I'm about to link in our chat window. The chat window will ask like, what kinds of things do you think you're interested in? And then other ideas that you've got. And then it ends with next steps. The next steps being, when are you available? So there's a number of times and days we're hoping to reconnect in order to forward these initiatives, and hope that you'll join us in doing so.
All right. Good job, Steve. Really appreciate it. So you're not only proposing a solution, your wallets can also be used for cryptocurrency transfers. So people that want to donate, Bitcoin or whatever currencies, but you're also there to validate ideas that people have. And a lot of people might have some questions, and then the advising on technology as well. So
yeah, our wallets especially are, we think, very good at being accessible by people. So not just blockchain experts, not just technologists, but anybody. And so we're hoping that opens doors that didn't exist previously when it comes to regular Joes and Janes accessing the blockchain in order to solve these problems.
Yeah, I've seen your wallet. I'm a big fan, and it makes it really easy to do, to exchange value and give people stuff to pay for. I just noticed that recently Fidelity, I think in the last year or since 2013 or so, has received over $100 million in digital currency donations, the Fidelity nonprofit. So yeah, this is a real deal. So thanks a lot, Steve. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. And everyone, please, in the chat right now, I've linked, and I'll do it later as well, the link to the form where you can kind of give your feedback, as well as my email address if you'd rather just contact me directly.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Stand by for questions. Again, this is going to be recorded, and please submit your questions in the question window. We have 4 in there already. Put the speaker's name in front, and this is great. So last up, we have John Hargrave, the CEO of Media Shower and a fellow board member of Boston Blockchain Association. John, I hope I did a good job of recasting the Boston Blockchain Association goals.
Great.
So, John, welcome to the vidcast.
Thank you. My family, we love to play board games, and this is one of our favorite games. It's called Pandemic, where you work together to save the world from a super virus. And I love this game because it's a co-op game. You're all working together as a team, and the only enemy is the virus. And each of you has a role. You get these little role cards that gives you some kind of superpower, like the quarantine specialist. And what I've come to realize is that in this real life pandemic, we all have a role, and that role is communication specialist. We all have a responsibility for communicating well about coronavirus. So to that end, the World Health Organization back in 2005 put out this document. It's called Best Practices for Communicating with the Public During an Outbreak. So this isn't our first pandemic. We've been through SARS and avian flu and many others, and they put this together. And as I read through this a few weeks ago, I realized nobody was following these best practices. No one's read it, probably because it's 70 pages. And so what we did, because we run a media and communications company, we said, how can we help? Well, we can help with spreading the word about good, effective communication around coronavirus. And because we know so much about blockchain and decentralized systems, we said we probably can kind of help get these ideas to go really viral, or as we say, antiviral. So I'm going to share my screen right here, and I'll walk you through this project that we've put together, which is called COCO. And here it is. COCO stands for Coronavirus Communication. We good? See that?
Yep.
So during a pandemic, it's important to communicate in a way that's helpful and truthful. It's something all of us can do. That's why we developed COCO. COCO stands for Coronavirus Communication, and it's your hub for getting helpful, truthful information to the world. COVID-19 is a virus. It travels from one person to another. It spreads like a virus. You know what else spreads? Information. When everyone shares an idea, what do we call it? Going viral, or in this case, antiviral. When we share good information, we slow the spread of the virus and we speed the spread of helpful, truthful information. And this acts like a magnet that attracts even more people. Our mission is to get these messages to spread faster than the virus. Coco is a messaging toolkit with ready-made tweets, images, and even memes that you can use to remix and share. Get creative. Good communication is how we band together as humans. We're one human species, and if we work together, we will win. Working together, we can literally save the world. So spread the word, not the germ. Coco. So that's our little animation, our little video that we've done for this, and we've put together then this website called Coco. So Coco uses the principles of decentralization by empowering all of us to get these messages out here. And every one of them has what we call a Coco brief. And this is a little messaging brief that has something that we're trying to get out there with a primary message that can easily be copied and pasted, tweeted out as is, or you can kind of build on these message points. And then we also have supporting visuals like this one that you may have seen recently.
John, you need to share your screen.
Sorry?
You need to reshare your screen.
All righty. I will share right here. Hold on one sec. Share that baby. How's that?
Yep.
So with Coco, each one has a primary message, these Coco briefs, as well as why it's important, messaging points that you can build upon, and then supporting visuals and even memes that you can share. And a lot of people, I think, have looked at this site and said, well, that's really cute. That's nice. You're trying to do good, positive messages out there, but that's only part of the story. It's really very serious. And what we're trying to do is change the world, because in this time, it is such a time of extreme financial, political, social change. And we have two paths. In one path, we go a very dark route. If you look at the president of Hungary, who just set himself up as essentially dictator for life, if you look at gun sales, which are at a record high, if you look at how people are nervous and afraid, and you look at how long we have to go ahead, that's a bad place to go. But there's another outcome. The other outcome is that we reboot the world, that we change everything. And isn't this what we've been talking about in the blockchain community for the last few years? Haven't we been saying this is our opportunity to think globally, to decentralize the money supply, and to change the way that the rules work, to flip the script? And that's what we're trying to do. We need your help. We hope you'll share Coco and the messages there, coco.mediashower.com.
Great. Thank you so much. One quick question, John. What is the best thing you've seen shared, on Coco, or what's the best piece of content you've seen so far?
There's been so much good stuff. Simon Sinek, who's a famous TED talker and author, just did a great LinkedIn share, and it's had like 600,000 views, I think, so far. We can link to that afterwards, or I'll put it in the chat here. Highly worth watching, about looking at this time as an opportunity for reinventing yourself.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Simon Sinek. He's just awesome. Start with the why.
Start with why.
Yep. All right, great. Well, thanks, John. Stand by. We're going to be bringing you back in for questions. And by the way, I heard just recently that the Patriots, the New England Patriots, the football team, just leveraged their airplane to bring in 1 million masks, safety masks for people. So that's a little bit of good news from this area of Boston. So I think what I'd like to do is we'll address a couple of the questions. One of the questions is for me, and that was, can you share information about Algorand's COVID support? Algorand is a company in Boston that has a very awesome blockchain protocol, and they are doing using the blockchain protocol. The Algorand Foundation is doing a data project where they're asking people to self-identify without sharing their personal information, what their COVID status is. Have they got it? Did they not get it? If they got it, what were their symptoms, and so forth? And they're trying to make that data project go viral around the world, so that, like Danny's project, that will gather information from the people themselves, as opposed through government websites, so directly from the source of the information, and allow governments and medical facilities and so forth to access that data. That's one of the projects, by the way, that we want to potentially feature, because that's still in development. We want to potentially feature on round 2. Several people have sent to me additional projects that are going on, and we have a feeling that, maybe we should do another one of these videos. So, hey, put a comment in there if you think we should do another one of these vidcasts. All right, so I think what we're going to do, well, there's another question in here for Danny. So Danny, the question is, can you elaborate on the role blockchain is playing with regard to this data? So Danny did comment on that a little bit, but
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead, Danny. Do you have any other comments?
Yeah, so the main thing is basically it's a timestamp kind of proof that California said we had 1,000-something cases on today, April 2nd.
So the blockchain, the specific blockchain functionality is the timestamping of the data. So that data becomes a transaction on the blockchain ledger, right?
Yeah.
And I had a question for you too, Danny. So how often is this data being updated, and where is the actual data coming from? Where are your, I know you probably mentioned this, but where did you sink in to get that data, and how often is it updating?
Sure. So right now the source for the state data is from the state health department websites. So there are 50 states and Washington D.C. and then Puerto Rico also. Those are the ones we're pulling from. And then we're going to go, and also some county websites. So we're going to go to the county health department websites soon too, to pull their daily numbers. And we pulled, actually right now it's quite frequent, probably about once an hour. We're doing a crawl across all the sites.
Wow, that's awesome. That's fantastic. Was there anything else in the chat window, Danny, that I saw something that I think you commented on something somewhere in there.
Yeah, so the site's free. There's an API. You can get the data. It's all open and free. And also the project, the code is also open source. So you can also go to the GitHub repo.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Danny. Stand by. There might be some more stuff. We've got another question for David Schreier. Let's see, David, this question just came in. What do you think would serve as the best balancing test of the privacy versus data? Does that make sense? David, we're not hearing you.
Sorry, I muted my mic. Privacy versus data sharing.
Yeah.
I think that, this has been a trade-off that has been posed as a false dichotomy for years. And the reason why it pops up is because in some instances we see it playing out in practice. But I'll explain why I call it a false dichotomy. So the short version is, in Germany, there are very, very strict personal privacy protections, and they do so a little bit at the expense of security, of the ability to track down bad actors. Whereas in the UK, you've got this ring of cameras surrounding London and in lots of CCTV everywhere. And so when they had the bombing on the bus, they were able to track down the bombers with facial recognition and other software within less than 48 hours. And so that's kind of the classic trade-off between security and privacy around personal data. But it's something that if you think of those as sort of two poles, you can transcend that in a third dimension using DLT and good algorithms. And the way you do that is you protect and encrypt the personal sensitive data on a blockchain. And when we look at data, like the telcos, for example, done analysis on data, 99.9% of their data is not sensitive personal data. It's the 0.1% that you need to put onto a blockchain, which means we can handle it with the current sort of processing throughput of most DLT. And then you put algorithms around that data that can run safe queries. So what we reveal is not the underlying data when someone's trying to ask a question, but rather a safe answer. This is an extension of a concept known as zero-knowledge proofs. So blockchain has an ability to help better protect our data, and also as a separate kind, separately from what I've just described, we also need an audit trail of who's been running queries on our data, who's looked at even the extracts of our data. And that's where, again, DLT has a role to play. So taking these as two separate parts, let's pretend that we throw aside the concept I described of zero knowledge proofs and safe questions and all this kind of data protection, and just look at the simple application of audit trail. I want an immutable audit trail of who has looked at my data in this crisis.
Okay.
That's something we could do with today's technology without any radical new development.
Well, the world needs to hear more from you, David, and people like you that really understand the technology and can speak to it in a layman's point of view, because I think the vast majority of people out there don't really understand the finer intricacies of how distributed ledger technologies really work, and how you can have in the same cache of data some private and some public, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So it's not just a better database, right?
Differential privacy is a very opaque point. So I've been working on trying to convince MIT to teach a data privacy class, and we haven't gotten them there yet, but we're still working on it.
Okay. Well, thanks, David. Really appreciate it. I wanted to bring Jenny Balliet up. I know, Jenny, you've been engaging in the chat window as well. And I just wanted to get some final thoughts from you, Jenny. A lot of people have told me, I'm also involved in blockchain education at the executive level for insurance executives. And a lot of people have said, yes, we need more blockchain education. So what are some of the things, Jenny, that you've been looking at in the chat window that people have been talking about?
Well, number one, it's I love what David just talked about as far as he spoke about exactly how. I think a lot of the things that people say, we forget sometimes that the people that we're talking to don't have a really great concept to begin with about what blockchain is. They might have a superfluous definition, but not a real one. And so it's breaking that down in a way that made sense. And so that was the question. What I asked was exactly that. And I wanted to know how, and I love the answer of the zero knowledge proofs. So then it's like to extrapolate that into ways or different examples that it all comes to value, right? We just have to pick things that people value because of the testing, because of the opaqueness of everything going on. And data is one of those points that a lot of people get right now. I actually just published a long article on this, which has like 12 government reports from 2015 on to 2020. And you can read it if you like. And I quoted Danny in it. And so I think if we can find ways that it matters to someone. So like with whether it's insurance, then it's like, okay, well, let me just think, okay, how is this going to impact your daily life? Okay, this analogy is going to work for you. So it's all about breaking down the concept away from these terms. And while I agree with a lot of people, and I would love to hear Mr. Hargrave's opinion on this, but a lot of people will say, no, you shouldn't be calling it blockchain. That's, yay, blockchain. That's too markety. That's too this, that's too that. But I would argue that when we are talking to people in the periphery, when we're talking to people that don't understand blockchain, they don't understand digital ledger, all they know is Bitcoin, and they saw it go up to 20,000 and then go down. And they hear maybe a few things on the news. When we're talking to those people, we have to clear through that. And the only way you can do that is you have to build on learning, and you have to build on meaning. So while I understand blockchain is not the most accurate terminology as far as technology goes, I think it is a term that people understand, because when I explain it to people, I explain it really simple, and I just say, hey, every teacher ever has done blockchain, they just didn't know it. Why? Because you give children incentives. I made my own money, and then we had an exchange at the end of the week. But what I didn't know was all these students were charting everybody else's. So they basically had their database, and then that element of consensus was at the end. And when I say it to people like that, we on Fridays we would exchange them, and that way, if I flooded the market, I could pluck them as I needed to without worrying that I was without being too punitive, because I always wanted to have winning streaks. So in short, I think we have to find what matters to people, and then we have to relate it to them. Every time, the more we can say, hey, well, what's something that's going on, and just flip around the example. I know that sounds kind of silly, but if you think about it from the standpoint of a kindergartner, and then you look at it that every adult is basically at the same level as a kindergartner as far as blockchain goes, if they are not in this space, if they're in this periphery, then you've got to go with methods that work. And that's going to be engagement. And it's going to be simple elevator speech that resonates.
Amen. Amen, sister.
Yeah.
Jenny, what did you call yourself? Jenny in blockchain, or?
Jenny from the blockchain.
Yeah, Jenny from the blockchain. Thank you, Jenny. I really appreciate it. So I also wanted to bring up Yuri Cram, and so Yuri, I find what you had to say really interesting about cities and 5G, and the whole identity management piece. So I just want to make sure people know how to connect with you, what they can do to help you, and anything else that you would like to talk about.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about the telco first. So this is really a link back to the privacy concept what David was talking about, and the reason why I gave the example of Madrid, because there's a lot of experience right now going on with with 5G and all this, and obviously the blockchain is a perfect extension to all this infrastructure. So what we are saying here that the main benefit of this concept, which I've been introducing around this, is that basically it's extending what is already in the telco. And because when you think about edge is actually extension to the cloud. So when I talk cloud, I think like something like Microsoft Azure or AWS and all this kind of stuff. And this is where you have this machine learning things. And the reason why you have this edge locations is because it's about the latency. I can get this data much faster, and therefore I can do a lot of the real-time decision making and all these things. And this is very, very important. So the reason why I donated this project to fight COVID-19 is really because I really believe that we as a technologists has, first of all, duty to do something. And secondly, technology really can help. There was some great questions like about this kind of like, can we track the people that they violate the quarantine and all that? Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do about the combination of these technologies. So, if someone wants to help, it's more about like, are you interested in this concept? And do you know someone who can benefit? So, for example, some city that could benefit from it, or some telco that might be interested, because there are two combinations, telco and the city. Yeah, that's it.
All right, great. Thanks, Yuri. Really appreciate it. Hey, we just got a question in for Steve from Clove Crypto. So how can wallets solve coronavirus? And That's a great question, and I know you have the answer to that.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of answers, and it's yet to be determined which, I guess, project we move forward with. But for instance, restaurants, like, they're having a lot of trouble functioning right now. And not the least of which is collecting cash, giving change back, taking credit card payments, etc. If we could combine the ability to do a transaction with perhaps limited menu offerings, that would make a lot of restaurants be able to continue to operate in ways that don't require anyone to even come in the store. You could have prepared meals outside of the store. You could have one person that's always out that's doing that. The Internet of Things, if folks had wallets, they could utilize a touchless transaction in order to do those transactions with a machine. With identity management, you could carry your identity digitally with you on your device, and other people could authenticate it with their devices. Those are just a few ways that we thought of initially, not to mention the whole charity and giving component. We could do international giving for international problems.
Right. Awesome. Great. Thank you, Steve. Really appreciate it. Last question for John Hargrave. So, John, and we're going to kind of segue to close up the meeting as well. So, John, I know you've been paying attention to the sidebar chat window, and I'm just wondering if you have any closing thoughts, and then could you talk about the Boston Blockchain Association a little bit?
Yeah, let me just jump into the Boston Blockchain Association, and thank you and Ryan for how much work you guys put into tonight's event. Just a tremendous effort to organize all these great speakers. And I'll tell everybody a quick story, which was the week that the coronavirus hit was the week we were supposed to have the Boston Blockchain Week. And there were 4 of us on the board who had a really difficult conversation on Monday night because we had a big event planned for Thursday night. That was our big, like, milestone event for Boston Blockchain Week. And 2 of us felt very strongly that the show must go on and we should all meet in person. And 2 of us felt very strongly that we should not. And I was on the side that we should move forward. And my fear was that we lose momentum both as a Boston blockchain community, but also as a global blockchain community if we don't come together during this time. I was wrong. It was the right move to not have the event. So the right move was eventually made. The right decision was made, which is a vote of confidence in our board. And tonight just has totally reaffirmed my faith in the ability of this community to come together, both in Boston, but also as a global blockchain community. We're really making a difference during this time. The Boston Blockchain Association is an important piece of this, and we're sharing our screen right now. We need your support, and specifically, we need you to join. We have kept the membership fees really low so everybody can join. It's only $100 a year for individuals. It's $1,000 a year for corporate, for up to 10 members. And you can click the Become a Member green button up at the top there of the page and sign up tonight. This is really important. We will make it through. We will be stronger at the end of this. However, we need your continued support, and these events are our biggest sort of generator of new memberships. So if you enjoyed tonight, if this was helpful for you, we ask that you consider signing up tonight before you forget about it. I truly believe that we're all going to be okay financially. The government is printing money right now. It's helicopter money coming in from above. We're all going to be fine. And when you submit your donation and you join the Boston Blockchain Association, it's a vote of confidence in what we're doing and in the blockchain community as a whole. So thank you to Mike, thank you to Ryan, and thank you all of you for coming tonight and for all your excellent questions and engagement.
Yes.
Mike Wise, ladies and gentlemen.
Amen to that. Thanks so much, John. Really appreciate it. Well, that wraps up our event. I just want to reaffirm that we really appreciate the speakers. Thank you so much. We really appreciate all the attendees. If you have some comments or, what's your number one takeaway from this? Here's what I'd like you to do. Go to LinkedIn, go to Twitter, go somewhere where there's a thread about this event and post in there your number one takeaway from this event. And that would really be helpful in, again, spreading the word, and I'll follow up on that as well. So excellent presentations. This event will be recorded, and it has been recorded, and it will be posted right to this page. So Thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. On behalf of Boston Blockchain Association and hashtag Boston Blockchain, this is Mike Wise. Thanks for coming.